Scott from the Believers Underground. What's going on, man?
What's up, bud?
Just chilling, just chilling.
I hear you, man. Friday night. Another Friday. Wow.
I know.
Long week, man.
Went by fast for me.
It was a long week, with those two big earthquakes in the United States and all the different shifts and aquifers and stuff, man. I've been crunching numbers all week.
All right, so tell me, what the heck happened with these earthquakes? I've been waiting all week to talk to you about this, and here we are.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk first about the dam. And I've talked about this before on videos from like over a year ago, that these dams were sinking. It's the lake behind the dam. They sink. And this is what's happening over in Virginia right now. And I'll read right off it. It says, dam at Virginia nuke plant inspected for damage after quake. Engineers, experts had classified it as a high hazard at this point. August 25th, 2011 at 5:34 p.m. Now, Domino's North Anna Power Station, okay, it restores offsite power, finally. And then it says the ice or the water level, I talk about ice, but the water level dropped 20 inches in the day the lake was used by the reactors. And it's in that same quake area. Virginia Nuclear Power Plant is concerned about the dam problem. Yeah, that's a huge concern, because when the lake behind the dam sinks, okay, then the footing of the dam pulls in on itself. It can actually collapse the wall of the dam now. So yeah, it's at high hazard. I mean, they got a problem over there. And they're not talking at all about it. And this is how they roll with the nuclear stuff. As another article was released today, Quebec's only nuclear power plant was shut down Tuesday night following two malfunctions on their reactors, including a heavy water leak that the Hydro-Quebec didn't announce for 2 months. That thing was leaking heavy water into the river system up there in Quebec for 2 months, and they didn't say a word. And the system overflowed on June 13th inside the Gentilly 2 plant, located 100 km northeast of Montreal. The Hydro-Quebec spokeswoman confirms the second problem at the 48-year-old reactor nuclear plant. I mean, this is sadder than heck. They're covering this stuff up like crazy. You've got a big problem in Virginia right now. In Quebec, they just toxified the whole leaking system. Yeah, I'm just sitting there going, holy smokes, man. And you don't hear nothing on the media.
No.
If you don't.
That's all.
Cricket.
That's about it. Crickets. And you know what? I hate to make this joke, but the only word that comes to mind in hearing about this is damn.
Pretty much, man.
Damn.
Pretty much.
I mean, and I'm not talking about the dam, although it's play on words there, but I couldn't resist. Anyway, Scott, we'll continue to go into that in just a moment. Got to take a quick break, and if anybody wants to call us up, they can feel free to do so. 866-841-1065, the number to join us. Scott from the Believers Underground. It's the second hour of Friday, folks. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Shotgun in my hands, behind the gun, I'll make my final stand. Yeah, and that's why they call me Bad Company. I can't deny.
All right, folks, and there's been some bad company when it comes to the weather this last week, and we'll talk about the hurricane and the earthquakes, and Scott will take us here, there, and everywhere. But Scott, I've been really looking forward to tonight's show, and I know you got a lot to say, so I'll let you just jump right into it. The floor is yours.
All right, and after this earthquake, I'm going to get back over to Virginia because it's very important. After that earthquake took place, you also have underground tunnel systems of the New World Order. I mean, they got tunnel systems going all through that place, all the way into Washington, D.C. Who knows what the heck they had stored underground and how many people were working down there. I mean, you can have mass fatalities down there, and we won't even know. They'll just broom that. But I know the tunnels are there. Heck, I've seen TV shows on it. I mean, they're there. And that earthquake, I haven't heard word one about any of that stuff. So I was talking to one of my friends, subscribers, Kathy. She lives in Virginia. She lives right where it happened. Right down the street is the nuclear power plant that we were just talking about. And they're venting gas out of that thing. Don't kid yourself. That thing went to emergency shutdown, which means they had extra hot water there, so they had to vent. And that's hot water. It's, if they get too much water or too much steam in that reactor, it blows, man. So they're venting it. It's a common practice in the nuclear industry. I mean, don't kid yourself. It's a common practice. And now that you got this lake system down the street from it sinking behind this dam, that's a huge problem. I mean, we just had a river vanish over in Costa Rica. I have a video on it. Right after a 5.3 earthquake. And this one was a lot stronger. This was a 5.8. And they've been losing river systems around the world. It just opens up a crack in the earth, sucks that lake right into it. I mean, God, there's so many. These nuclear power plants are just unbelievable. They are set up in this time where we're going through an earth adjustment because of all this ice melting. We have a big problem with nuclear power plants. They are going to keep going off. The United Nations already stated that. We're going to have more nuclear meltdowns. So why they're keeping them in operation when they're a Pandora's box is, I don't know, why do you vote for President Obama? People do stupid things, but this is beyond moronic. I mean, this is life or death. This is your children. Okay? This is your pets. This is the wildlife. It has nothing to do if you want to run your TV or you want to work on the computer and stuff. There comes a time and a place when life trumps energy. And right now, energy is trumping life because incorporation makes a lot of money on it. It's big money. And that nuclear power plant was only built to withstand a 6.2 earthquake. And USGS themselves stated it was a 6.0, and they downgraded it. And they downgraded it so EMS wasn't brought into alert. See, they're already looking at a stupid hurricane coming their way, so they already had management services all spread out. They were all over the place. They couldn't. They dropped it. It was intentional. I mean, I'm sitting there going, wow. And this isn't the first time that USGS has done that. They'll drop an earthquake for monetary reasons all the time. If it's a 6 or greater earthquake, then, the state picks in certain amount of funds. If it goes over a 7 earthquake, then the Fed comes in with all kinds of funds. So they'll manipulate those numbers so they don't have to kick out funds. It's a money thing. And USGS they get their money from this United States incorporation, and because they gave that paper life in 1917. It's alive, man. It's an idol. That paper's an idol now. Before then, it wasn't an idol. When they gave it life in 1917, it became an idol. That
stinking Federal Reserve note, nothing more than dead toilet paper.
Yeah, and they slid that in during World War I. They had this big plague that was going on in between 1913 and 1918. They had World War I. Everybody's attention was everywhere else, and they just slid that stuff right on through. Just like these big natural catastrophes or 9/11, they just slide them protocols right on through. Yeah. They wait for them. They wait for those disasters. They wait to throw out all this new legislation. They're just licking at the chops right now, just waiting for it to hit.
Mm-hmm. So what's the latest with this hurricane, though, Scott? Is it going to hit New York? And if so, what's going to happen with the homeless up there?
Man, they're in trouble. And that water is going to inundate that whole lower part of Manhattan. I mean, it's going to flood the subway system out. It's going to flood probably Wall Street out. Good, it'll float away.
When we were saying there hasn't been any hurricanes, what did we say, that last week or something? Do you remember that? I was saying, no, there hasn't been a lot of hurricanes. Sure enough, this superstorm runs up the East Coast, originally threatening my parents down in South Florida, and now New York, which is a place, unlike Miami, not able to handle these storms. Miami, we're used to it. And, I know a lot of New Yorkers come down to South Florida, but up there in New York, the city's just not equipped. I read a story, breaking news, they're trying to evacuate over 300,000 people from waterfront properties. That's a lot of people to move.
Yeah, and like I stated, man, it was in the package, your budget. They took out $300 billion worth of tsunami insurance. The U.S. government did. Okay, the U.S. incorporation did. To protect the assets on the ground. The banks have to cover their butts. So naturally they lobby for that. They get it. And we pay for it. It's sad. But the reason why you're seeing these hurricanes actually doing something this year, where last year they all stalled out in the ocean, was because the Atlantic current was stalled from all that weight that went in the ocean. Well, guess what? We have an NIJ now. It's the Norwegian jet. The Earth has created herself a new ocean current in the Atlantic.
What about the Gulf Stream? No more Gulf Stream?
Well, this is way up there. This is up there by the Arctic. See, the water used to come off of Iceland, and you had a nice little circular thing that took it up and around Iceland and stuff. But now the Earth is opened up a new river down right on the ocean floor, and this water is super frigid, and it's going the opposite direction.
Post-glacier rebound, it sounds like to me.
Oh, baby.
All right, Scott, hold that thought. I want to hear more about this, and we're coming up to a quick break. And I also want to get your take on the Gulf Stream, because from what I understand, there's stuff going on with that as well. So I'll let you fill in the gaps for me. It's the Bob Tuskin Show with our good friend Scott Bug. Folks, information, shock resistance. Don't go anywhere. The Gulf Stream, the stream of consciousness, the stream of love, all on the Bob Tuskin Show with Scott Bug. It's just a constant stream, and you can find our stream at the website bobtuskin.com, Tuskin. We're also streaming on the Orion Talk Radio Network and, of course, oraclebroadcasting.com. All the great AM and FM micro broadcasters that pick up the show, thank you very much. And, we're all over the place these days, Scott. Hopefully we're going to get out there more and more so that people hear what's really going on, so that we can get the word out. And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, you want to drink from a stream of living water, not this toxic sewer stuff they're giving us.
And with all the fracking going on, we'll talk about that. But tell me more about this stream in Norway, and then I want to hear a little bit more about the Gulf Stream, because I know there's something up with it, right?
Yeah, what happens is the Earth's got to push the stream. It's got to move it, and And like I've reported before, the whales are on the wrong side of the planet now. You got plankton growing over there in the Atlantic Ocean now. It's setting itself up for a complete adjustment. You got a river system now that's created a new current in the ocean. I mean, that's big news. That's a huge event. And it triggered 3 earthquakes. I showed it on my video this week, and I think it was number 2 top-rated or top-favorited video, one of those things. But, I mean, it was under all kinds of categories. But the thing was it's the information. It's not the messenger. It's the message. I mean, this is some bad news. But this is, good news for the Earth because she's fixing herself. But it's bad news for the East Coast because now it looks like the hurricanes are going to start to make landfall again. Last year when it stalled out the coast, it couldn't make landfall. Now the coast the Atlantic current isn't stalled. It's created itself a nice little way of, pushing it around now. So, which will impact the Gulf of Mexico as well. And who knows how much oil's sitting out there still from BP and all their Corexit and whatever else the Earth is releasing down there. Could be releasing liquid methane gas for all we know. Did in Java, Indonesia. I mean, heck, they got houses the whole basement's full of liquid methane gas. They scoop it up and use it for cooking. There's videos on YouTube on it. I mean, and, you get the storm surge and it pushes all that oil and all that, and then it could cause all kinds of weird stuff, man. And we're only going to see weird things from here on out. The Earth's going to surprise the heck out of us with all kinds of strange anomalies, like Beijing, China today. A video was released of this big a bubble cloud that came out of the Earth. The weirdest, strangest thing. I have it in my face right now. It's the second time that I've seen that effect, though. The first time I saw it actually moving across the Pacific Ocean towards Hawaii. Somebody captured it. And we speculated on it for a while, that it might have been a military thing where they were testing the ground of the ocean. And they were using a kind of push weapon or not a weapon, but a device where it reverberates and could have sent a bubble, I mean, we were really throwing that out there because none of us could figure it out. And here we go again. Now they have this anomaly show up in broad daylight or evening time in Beijing, China. And it was caught by all kinds of people. Very bizarre stuff, man. The Earth is talking. She is talking loud. And I'm sitting back going, oh boy, this is going to get interesting now, because, hey man, the Earth's just got to fix herself. It's interesting to me because what I do, it's interesting, it's fascinating. I don't want to throw this out as fear porn or anything. This is what's happening. We got all kinds of dynamics happening, and they're happening for real. And that's why I put the articles in there and all the information and everything else. And this is the big reason why I yell like an activist like Bob, let's get rid of these nuclear facilities, man. We're in trouble. The Earth's going to fix herself. We can't do that stuff. We can't afford dirty water from these fracking projects. We can't afford to eat garbage for food, Mr. GMO. I mean, this stuff's all unhealthy across the board. And on top of that, we're stupid enough to give life to a piece of paper. Give me a break, man. My coffee cup has more life in it than that paper.
Well, people are going crazy for that toilet paper right now with the hurricane coming. I love how people don't prepare, and this is the perfect example why you gotta be prepared, because you don't know if it's going to be a natural disaster or whatever. You just got to be prepared. It's like car insurance. You don't necessarily drive that car around with insurance because you're going to get in an accident necessarily. But you could get in an accident, and it comes in handy. So preparedness is kind of like that. You got to have it on board. You got to be ready to go. And if it doesn't happen, fine. It doesn't happen. But if something does happen, which I'm more likely to think it will, then you're prepared and you're ready to go. And when people, and I told you, Scott, growing up in South Florida, I dealt with these hurricanes. I lived through Hurricane Andrew. And you see that people freak out. They go to the Home Depots and the grocery store and they buy everything in a panic. I can only imagine what's taking place right now in the Northeast.
Oh, I know. Encrypt777, one of my subs, he told me, he goes, man, it's gridlock. And I was talking to Chris over in North Carolina. Same thing. And he called me up and he goes, hey, Scott, man, I'm going to send you a Geiger counter. You know, I heard that you needed one. I go, no, I have one. You need one. You know, and he goes, well, I was talking with Kathy. Yeah, Kathy needs one. She's right up the street from that nuclear power plant. And he was in total gridlock, you know, but he's prepared. You know, he was getting out of there, but, you know, he had his plan. Okay. If you don't have a plan, you're screwed. You're dead meat. I would suggest everybody get into communications with somebody in a different state, either a friend or a relative. So if something goes down in your state, you have another state to jump to, okay? Because you may not be able to get back for a while. So, you know, I would suggest heavily having an outside contact in a different state. It's common sense. And then when these events happen, you know, you got a place to go. There's no debate. You're assured of where you're going to, and you need that. That's critical. If you're living in these inner cities, you're lunch meat, man, because it's dog eat dog. The gas stations were all out of gas. There was lines in the gas stations. They were buying everything out that were in the gas stations because they shut all the stores down. They're panic buying. It's chaos and panic. That's what happens during these evacuations. Could you imagine if they had no notice whatsoever and that thing hit?
Sure. Hey, Scott, I want to open up the phone lines and hear from people maybe in that area and get some updates on what's going on. So call us up, folks, 866-841-1065. Get out your crayon, write down this number. We want to hear from you, especially if you're in the Northeast and you're getting ready for the storm. 866-841-1065. And Scott, we'll continue to talk about this. What else would you like to cover tonight?
Oh, I'd like to talk about the West Coast, too. Let's bring that into it, you know, since we got nuclear reactors sitting over here for 40 years. Man, that's a nightmare. You know, I've been screening that one for the rooftops, too, because California has tons of shell. You know, that stuff they go after with fracking. Oh, it's loaded with it, man, all the way down to San Diego. Could you imagine if that stuff ignites? From a nuclear power plant?
It would be a fracking mess. A fracking mess. And that's right, folks. All right, Scott, hold back the hunt, buddy. We'll come back in just a moment. It's the Bob Tuskin Show, and we'll get some calls. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, Scott, we're going to go right to the phone calls. And we do have somebody calling from just outside of New York City in New Jersey. And I want to get his call in just a moment. But, Scott, before we do that, why don't you give out your website real quick for all of the listeners to check out?
Just Believers Underground on YouTube. You know, Why Not News UK. You know, but I really don't have a website. I'm trying to build one, but, you know, whatever.
You know, the YouTube's fine. You can find them on the Bob Tuskin website, the Intel Hub, all these great sites. You get around. So
yeah, I'm all over the place.
People will find you. All right, Scott. Let's go to Greg in New Jersey. Greg, so what's going on there? Are people panicking? I can only imagine what the New Yorkers are doing for a hurricane. If it's bad as it is in Miami, I can only imagine it's like that on crack in New York.
Yeah, probably times 10. Home Depot, Walmart, and the ShopRite stores are doing a brisk business.
Oh, man.
I think is what this is really all about, to be honest with you.
It's a big sale.
It is. And they need to, you know, you have to remember that the end of September represents the end of the fiscal year, 2011. We go into fiscal year 2012, October 1st. And these numbers have been absolutely dismal throughout the summer. And so what is, think about what's best, put a scare into people, do a little Hegelian dialectic, whatever you call it.
So are you thinking that this storm is totally fabricated? I mean, aren't hurricanes
No,
a thing?
I think it's a moderate storm at best, but there's a low pressure system that came through here that pushed south, which is the jet stream, which dipped below the state of New Jersey. And this storm is going to run into this tomorrow morning, and I believe it's going to get nudged out to sea. We had the same exact thing happen last summer. We had a big storm, and for a couple of days, it was the sky is falling. Everybody ran to the stores, and the day the storm was supposed to hit, it got pushed out to sea, and it didn't make landfall into Nova Scotia, Canada.
Wow.
Completely missed the eastern seaboard.
And of course...
And it was, literally for days, it was nonstop, just like this. This one is a little worse because this isn't even close to us yet, and you have, like Mayor Bloomberg and everything on TV saying the sky is falling. It's all Chicken Little. They have no idea what this thing's going to do. Now, if it was as serious as they say, I believe that. Look, honestly, do they not have, like the scalar weapons and the things that can heat up the ionosphere and push this thing out to sea? Absolutely, they do.
But they would never use them. They would. I guarantee they would use them though to hit an area, and they would make these storms bigger. Like there's, I believe, some evidence of in the case of Katrina, and an even crazier situation was Hurricane Aaron on the day of September 11th, 2001. And here we are coming up to the 10th anniversary. Jeez.
Well, they act as perfect distractions, don't they?
They do. They do.
Something big is going on in the world right now. We all know that. There's a lot of things going on. And what better way to take people's focus and attention off of that than, let's pump up this storm.
Sleight of hand. You betcha.
And get everybody excited. And then when the storm doesn't hit or it's not nearly as bad as they claim, well, they can say, look how great, the fourth quarter economic numbers took a big jump. Those back-to-school sales, everybody's shopping again. And, but meantime, they won't calculate all the returns from the people returning their generators and, and plywood that they're not going to use. This could all be, what I tell people here, they're already telling people to evacuate. And I've been saying to my friends, look, don't worry about this until maybe tomorrow at around 2 o'clock. And if it's, that late, then you don't have to go but maybe 50 miles west to get out of its wrath. But chances are this storm's going to lose a lot of its horsepower, before it gets and it's serving its purpose right now because I had a friend call me. He was in Home Depot, getting some supplies for a generator in case the power goes out, and he spent $250. And I'm like, well, see, there you go. That's one guy times 13 million. That's doing the same thing tonight. They've got everybody jumping out of their skin.
Well, it's the mass media, it's the great show, man.
It is. It's a big distraction. And though I understand if it is that serious, but this storm was never the cataclysm like, maybe a Katrina you could say it was. It's only got 100-mile-an-hour winds. Well, it's going to lose a lot of that strength before it gets up here. The water's colder here. And we have that thing called the jet stream here, and it really does a good job pushing storms away. It always has.
Well, the interesting thing is that it wasn't just New Yorkers preparing. Almost every part of the East Coast bought into the hype and started buying supplies. My parents in South Florida were getting supplies already. They put the hype down there. In South Carolina and North Carolina, they were putting the hype there just a couple days ago.
Sure, they just got 50 billion people to go shopping. Look at it that way.
Cha-ching.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
The big population center between Boston and Washington, D.C., there's over 30 million people in that corridor.
Now, even if the storm was not a man-made storm, they still play on the fear and the PR involved there. So I don't think that we necessarily have to say that it was completely a man-made storm, harps pushing it and whatnot. to say that they definitely do play on these things and use it to fuel their wonderful consumer debt slavery-based system.
Mm-hmm. If you look at the last really significant hurricane we had in the Northeast, it was in 1938. And that storm is basically on the same track that this one is. But there's one big important difference. A couple days prior to that storm, there was another hurricane that took a loop-de-loop, and the jet stream pushed it out to sea. And that one in 38 came up the coast, and it started to go out to sea. The problem was it got the backflow from the previous storm that went through, and then it got pushed over Long Island, across Long Island, up into Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. It went all the way up into Canada and to Quebec. It caused it wiped out Long Island. So, but we don't have that situation now. This one I believe it's going to get nudged by the jet stream, the low pressure system that came down out of Canada. It's going to push it gradually out to sea. But there's nothing out there that's going to push it back.
Well, I hope you're right, Greg, but let's say you're not. What kind of damage do you see this thing having?
If it did come here, it would be significant damage, of course. It could be even a Category 2. The structures here are not built to, withstand that type of, that 80, 100-mile-an-hour winds. Mm-hmm. It would be very bad.
Well, you know what? I like to butt in here. Your real problem isn't the wind anymore. It's the rain. These things are stated there, Category 1, 2, 3, whatever, from the rain, but from the wind, not the rain. And these things are picking up massive amount of water. They're raining hardcore. And you're going to have storm surge that they didn't have back in 1938 because you're losing a foot of new water into the ocean. That was confirmed by NASA. This is a big different problem. Now, they can shut down a hurricane. They could do it in a heartbeat. I got a website of the contractor that does it. They aerial spray diaper pellets, and it wipes out the storm before it even gets going. So could they have knocked it out way in advance? Sure, they could have. You don't need a harp or anything. They can knock them down with diaper pellets. They're super absorbent. They just suck it up and knock it out. And that's already been tested and tried with our military. It's smart business. You don't want to have a storm come in your area. Well, you can knock it out. How many are thinking that way when there's all this money being made? You think about the storm that hit Louisiana. They didn't do any kind of precautions like this.
No, in fact, they might have fueled that storm.
They didn't do nothing. They didn't evacuate people. They didn't do nothing, man. Those people just sat there and died and got flooded out and everything else. Yeah. But now they're making a big thing. They're making a big thing.
Hey, Greg, thank you very much for your call, sir. Any final thoughts before we go? We're coming up to a break.
No, I just think that we have to wait and see. I think people should just, calm down, wait until tomorrow morning to make a judgment on this. If I'm wrong, then there's plenty of time still to get out. It's not going to be that far inland where they can't get to safety. But otherwise, I just think this is just another excuse to get people to spend money.
All right. Well, Greg, I appreciate you offering that cool, calm, and collective approach to this. Thank you very much for your call.
Thanks, guys.
Take care. All right, Scott will come back with more fear-mongering and fear porn. No, I'm just joking. No, I like that. I definitely don't want to play into the hype of this, and I want to be realistic here. But I do think people should be prepared in general, just not go and fuel the economy artificially for these storms and emergencies. All right, folks. We'll be right back with our final segment of tonight's show, Scott Bug, Believers Underground, Information Shock Resistance. And if you'd like to call us, 866-841-1065. All right, Scott, I know there's a lot to still cover, and let's jump right into this. We'll go back to the hurricane at some point and fracking involved and so much more. But, Scott, I was talking off the break, and I want to hear more about this. What happened with these earthquakes? It's been, 120 plus years since they've experienced an earthquake in the Virginia area, and in the same day, Colorado, Virginia, and what was the other area that got hit? There was another one, right?
Yeah, but with the Virginia quake, because you have to take them each on their own merit. Now, the Virginia quake, and I talked to people on the ground over there. I mean, I got subs and friends everywhere, including out there in New Jersey, who just sent me a message that said Route 72 in New Jersey is being redirected to Golden State Parkway south of exit 98 is being shut down in both instances, preventing the flow of traffic from heading towards the Oyster Creek nuclear power plant. So I thought I'd throw that out there. But my people on the ground over there said they did not experience a P wave. And I go, that's impossible. And they said, no, we just felt the ground like a vibration. One of the gals goes, it was like standing on a vibrator. That's how it felt, yeah, no, it's all good. But, because we're all funny. But, the thing was, with a P wave, because they said it was a nuclear blast at first. That was the first, how the shells come out of nowhere and start saying, oh, well, it's this and that, whatever. But you would have just a P wave. With the nuclear blast that took place underground over there in Nevada during the testing, you would have a concussion wave. Okay, that's like a bomb that detonates above ground. It basically liquefies your innards as it hits you and impacts you. That's the concussion wave. Now, when they detonate a bomb underground, it's the same thing. You get a concussion wave. It just ripples and lifts the ground. It's like you're on a surfboard and you just, whoa, you go up and down, and you have a concussion wave. So with a nuclear blast, you would have a P wave, but it would not be followed with an S wave. When it's Earth itself, then you will get the S wave. But with this one, since what I'm getting is reports that there was no P wave, then it falls under the same anomaly that happened over there in Michigan, which I did a video on, and that same anomaly in Texas, where the ground just popped up, cracked, split, and opened. And that's piping system. When the piping systems get pushed enough, and now the Atlantic Ocean has a new current in it, and you got 400 gigatons that haven't gone anywhere, and who knows how much ice has melted this year. I have not gotten reports out of there yet, because they're really crunching the numbers too. But it sinks the ocean floor. It pushes these piping systems, and it's kind of like a water hose that is weak in one area and it bubbles. And what's above it, and then the gravity pushing from up top, and it just lifts up an area, and it looks like it lifted up that whole plate, and it looks like they had the same kind of event over there in Colorado. You got all kinds of underground piping systems. You got a huge aquifer. You got mass loading and unloading from the snowpack up there in the mountains. And they got all kinds of underground tunnel facilities. You got NORAD. You got all the things over there in Colorado. And who knows how many underground piping systems. And what happened after the fact with that quake, with all those people underground, and who knows what kind of gases or other things could be stored down there. I mean, these places exist. They're there under both of these locations. But there's also piping systems. I mean, lots of them. And the one in Colorado was only 2.5 miles down. It was a very, very shallow quake. That was piping system. I mean, you can go to USGS and ask them, go over to the Yellowstone site when they had the last 8.5 earthquake. They got a nice little history video on it. Anybody can go on YouTube, punch in USGS. They have a site here on YouTube too. And they have a nice little video series. It's very informational, and you'll get a lot out of it. You'll learn about the piping system a little bit. But they cause big quakes, big ones. You know, just depending where they pop, and things get pushed around. The Earth's getting wider. You know, you're getting new river systems being created in the ocean to handle all this ice melting, and it's a runaway, and nothing's going to stop it. I mean, we've passed the point of no return on that stuff. It's called the feedback effect. The ice used to bounce off, or the sunlight used to bounce off the ice, go back into space. It's not. It's hitting the oceans now, and it's heating those. It's absorbing the heat. It's not reflecting off, and it's absorbing the heat on these land masses. It's just going to melt more from here. I mean, don't believe me. I have all the reports and information in the videos, and go ahead, double, triple, quadruple confirm it. Go to every researcher you want to, because all they can do is validate what I'm stating. It's their science. It's their reports. It's their numbers. They're just not telling you how it's really rolling. Well, most of them probably don't even know. They're not on that level. But, it is what it is. But both these facilities had very interesting dynamics. Very interesting things happening. If there was no P wave, then I have to look at it as pure piping system. Now, if there was a P wave, which I haven't been able to confirm or deny, I'm going on the ground reports, because I can't believe everything USGS puts out when they downgrade it intentionally, which I know they did. Okay, well, they lose their credibility in this earthquake at this time. Okay, this is a critical location. This is Virginia. This is Baltimore. This is Washington, D.C. This is big money. This is monster money. And they got underground bases. That's national security. They are going to mess around with the report. And they already have. So I'm going on with more on the ground. To get what that Earth was doing, and everybody that I've talked to, none of them experienced the P wave. I'm not saying that it didn't occur. I'm just saying in all the different locations from North Carolina all the way up to New York, they didn't experience the P wave. Now New York has had 2 more earthquakes since. They've had a 3.4 and a 2.5. So they're having.
Hey, Scott, let's try to sneak in a quick phone call here before we finish. We only have like a minute left. Sure. Rick in Florida, real quick. You got 20 seconds.
Bob, I'm just lost here. We've got a Jewish Federal Reserve, and yes, they are Jewish. So, I'm sorry if that hurts you out there, but they're Jewish, and we have a Jewish media running our country.
What does this have to do with our topic tonight, Rick? Real quick.
Well, it has absolutely nothing to do with your topic.
Perfect. All right. Thank you for your call. Let's talk about that another night. Scott, finish your thoughts, please. Go ahead.
Well, it's only going to get worse from here as far as, what Washington, D.C. stated in 2008. And looking at all the numbers that I've been going through, it is. But, hey, just have a plan, roll with the flow. And man, we got to get rid of these nuclear reactors. We're not going to have a chance.
Absolutely.
They're not in this time.
They're going to kill us all. Anyways, information shock resistance. Scott, thank you so much. Take care.
All right, man.
Until next week.
All right, everyone have a great weekend.
I feel so sorry for you youngsters today. At least back in the 30s after the Rothschilds, Warburgs, and Rockefellers robbed the American economy, many of us had some understanding of the unsavory characters who had gained control of the banking system. Today, they have totally infiltrated your media, academia, your Congress, and have left not a trace of the truth to be told. That's why I'm so glad I can tune into the Bob Tuskin radio show. The Bob Tuskin radio show.
Boy, did I want to talk to Rick. That was the caller who just called up. I wanted to talk to him. I really did. But I got a call from the Mossad. They told me I couldn't do it, so... No, just joking. All right, folks. Let's end it on a good note. Anytime you want to call up during open lines where we have more time, I'm happy to talk with you. If you want to talk about the Jewish conspiracy, let's talk about it. I'm open to it. Information is information, and as long as you're not generalizing, we're talking about the individuals based on their actions, I'm all for it. All right, folks, it's the Bob Tuskin Show. We'll be back next